if you want to be wealthy and happy, then you must first understand something that most people spend their entire lives misunderstanding. Wealth and happiness are not accidents, and they are not rewards handed out randomly by life. They are the results of alignment. Alignment between who you are, what you believe, and how you live every single day. I want you to hear me carefully tonight, because what I'm about to say may challenge everything you've been taught. Wealth is not about money, and happiness is not about pleasure. If you chase money, you may get it, but still feel empty. If you chase pleasure, you may experience moments of excitement, but still feel restless inside. So the question is not, how do I get more? The real question is, who must I become? Because who you become determines what you can sustain. You see, many people want the lifestyle, but they don't want the discipline. They want success, but they resist growth. They want wealth, but they avoid responsibility. And life does not reward wishes, it rewards preparation. If you want to be wealthy and happy, you must first accept responsibility for your life. Not partially, not when it's convenient. Completely. Stop blaming your past. Stop blaming your environment. Stop blaming other people. The moment you decide that your life is your responsibility is the moment your life begins to change. Because as long as you believe someone else controls your outcome, you will wait instead of act. And waiting is the most expensive habit you can have. Some of you are waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for support, waiting for confidence, waiting for clarity. But clarity doesn't come before action. It comes because of action. Confidence is not something you feel before you move. It is something you develop as you move. If you want to be wealthy and happy, you must move. You must move beyond fear, beyond doubt, beyond excuses. Because fear is not your enemy, it is your signal. It is the sign that you are standing at the edge of growth. And most people turn around at that edge. But the ones who become wealthy, in every sense of the word, are the ones who step forward anyway. Let me tell you something powerful. Everything you desire is on the other side of the person you have been, not the person you pretend to be, not the person you wish you were, but the person you consistently show up as every day. Your habits are creating your future right now.
Not tomorrow.
Not next year. Right now. If your habits are small, your life will be small. If your thinking is limited, your results will be limited. If your vision is unclear, your direction will be uncertain. You cannot build a powerful life with weak thinking. So if you want to be wealthy and happy, you must renew your mind. You must begin to think differently about yourself. Stop seeing yourself as someone who is trying to make it. Start seeing yourself as someone who is designed for purpose. Because when you understand that your life has purpose, you stop chasing things that don't matter. Purpose gives you focus. And focus is what separates the distracted from the successful. You cannot be wealthy, truly wealthy, if your attention is scattered. You cannot be happy if your energy is divided among things that don't align with who you are meant to be. Some of you are exhausted not. because you're doing too much. But because you're doing too much of what doesn't matter, you are investing time in things that do not return value. You are giving energy to people who do not contribute to your growth. You are chasing validation instead of building substance. And then you wonder why you feel empty. If you want to be wealthy and happy, you must become intentional about your time, intentional about your relationships, intentional about your growth, because your life moves in the direction of your decisions. And every decision you make is shaping the life you will live. Now listen carefully. Wealth is not about accumulation. It is about value. The wealthiest people in the world are not those who chase money. They are those who solve problems. They are those who create value. They are those who develop something within themselves that the world needs. So the question you must ask yourself is not, how can I make more money? The question is, what problem can I solve? What value can I create? What gift have I been given that I have not yet developed? Because your gift is your access point to wealth. Every single one of you has something within you that is powerful, something that can impact others, something that can create change. But gifts do not automatically produce results. Gifts must be developed, and development requires discipline. There is no shortcut around discipline. You cannot skip it. You cannot avoid it. You cannot negotiate with it. Discipline is the bridge between potential and reality. If you lack discipline, you will sabotage your own success. You will start things and not finish them. You will set goals and not follow through. You will dream but never build. And dreams without discipline become frustration. If you want to be wealthy and happy, you must train yourself to do what is necessary, even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. Because your feelings are not reliable indicators of your future. Your commitment is. Now let me say something about happiness, because many people misunderstand this as well. Happiness is not something you find. It is something you cultivate. It is the result of living in alignment with your purpose, your values, and your growth. You cannot be truly happy if you are living a life that contradicts who you are meant to be. You cannot be fulfilled if you are constantly compromising your integrity. You cannot experience deep joy if you are disconnected from your purpose. That is why some people have everything money can buy, and yet they are miserable. Because they built a life that looks good on the outside, but feels empty on the inside. If you want to be wealthy and happy, you must build from the inside out. Develop your character. Strengthen your mindset. Clarify your purpose. Because who you are internally will eventually manifest externally. And here is something that many people don't want to hear. Growth is uncomfortable. Becoming more requires you to confront parts of yourself that you would rather avoid. It requires you to let go of habits that feel familiar. It requires you to step into environments where you are no longer the most comfortable person in the room. But comfort is the enemy of progress. If you stay where you are comfortable, you will stay where you are. If you want a different life, You must be willing to live differently. You must be willing to think differently. You must be willing to act differently. And that means you will outgrow some people. You will outgrow certain environments. You will outgrow certain versions of yourself. And that is not something to fear. It is something to embrace. Because every level of your life requires a different version of you. Now, let me speak to those of you who have been trying, who have been working, who have been pushing, but you feel like you are not seeing results yet. Do not confuse delay with denial. Just because it hasn't happened yet does not mean it is not happening. Growth is often invisible before it becomes visible. Seeds grow underground before they break through the surface. And in the same way, your development is taking place, even when you cannot yet see the full result. But here is the key: you must remain consistent. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be persistent. Small, consistent actions over time create massive results. But most people quit too early. They stop just before the breakthrough. They give up just before the change happens. And then they say, "It didn't work." No, it didn't work yet. If you want to be wealthy and happy, you must develop endurance. You must learn how to continue when it is difficult. You must learn how to remain committed when it is inconvenient. Because your future is not built in moments of comfort. It is built in moments of decision. Decisions to keep going. Decisions to grow. Decisions to become. And let me remind you of something powerful. You were not created to live a small life. You were not designed to merely exist. To get by, to survive, there is something within you that is capable of more. More impact, more influence, more growth. But more will not happen automatically. It must be activated. And it is activated through your decisions, your discipline, and your commitment to becoming who you were meant to be. If you want to be wealthy and happy, stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for validation. Stop waiting for the perfect conditions. Start where you are. Use what you have. Become who you must. Because everything you need to begin is already within you. The question is, will you act on it? Will you step forward even when it is uncertain? Will you commit even when it is difficult? Will you grow even when it is uncomfortable? Because if you will, I am telling you, your life will change, not overnight, not instantly, but inevitably. And one day, you will look back and realize that the life you once hoped for is now the life you are living. Not because you were lucky, not because it was easy, but because you made a decision to take responsibility, a decision to grow, a decision to become, and that decision will make all the difference. So if you want to be wealthy and happy, don't chase it. Legacy is the ultimate measure of wealth, not possessions. And this is where many people get it wrong, because they spend their entire lives trying to gather things they cannot keep, while neglecting the one thing that will outlive them. You can accumulate money, houses, cars, titles, recognition, but none of those things define the true value of your life. Because when your time here is over, What will remain is not what you owned, but what you built into others, what you established through your actions, and what continues because you lived. You see, possessions are temporary, but legacy is transferable. Possessions are limited to your lifetime, but legacy extends beyond it. And if you truly want to understand wealth, you must shift your thinking from ownership to impact. Because the question is not, what do I have? The real question is, what will remain because I was here? Every single day you are depositing something into the future. Through your words, your decisions, your habits, your relationships, you are building something that will echo beyond your presence. The problem is that many people are building unconsciously. They are leaving behind confusion instead of clarity. They are passing down dysfunction instead of wisdom. They are creating cycles instead of breaking them. And then they wonder why the next generation struggles. If you want to be truly wealthy, you must become intentional about what you leave behind. Because legacy is not what you leave for people. It is what you leave in people. There is a difference. You can leave someone money and they can lose it. You can leave someone property and they can mismanage it. But if you leave someone values, discipline, vision, and understanding, you have given them something that cannot be taken away. And that is real wealth. Some of you are so focused on increasing your income that you are neglecting your influence. You are working hard to provide, but not taking the time to develop, to teach, to guide. And provision without guidance creates dependency, not empowerment. If you want to build legacy, you must think beyond yourself. You must ask yourself, who is becoming better because of me? Not just impressed by you, not just entertained by you, but genuinely better because you exist in their life. Because legacy is measured in transformation. It is measured in the lives that are elevated because you chose to invest in something greater than yourself. And let me challenge you with something. Legacy requires sacrifice. You cannot build something that lasts if you are only focused on what is convenient. You cannot create generational impact if you are only thinking about immediate comfort. Those who build legacy understand that sometimes you must give up what you want now to create something that will last later. That means you may have to invest time when you are tired. You may have to teach when it feels repetitive. You may have to correct when it is uncomfortable. You may have to stand firm when it is unpopular. Because legacy is not built in ease. It is built in intention. And intention requires discipline. It requires you to live in a way that is consistent, not just impressive. Because people do not inherit what you say. They inherit what you model. If you speak about integrity, but live in compromise, what will be passed down is not your words, but your contradictions. If you talk about discipline, but operate in inconsistency, what will be transferred is not your advice, but your habits. So if you want to build legacy, you must first become it. You must embody the principles you want to reproduce. You must live the standard you expect to see in others. Because legacy is not taught, it is caught, it is observed, It is absorbed over time through proximity and example. And this is why your daily life matters more than your occasional efforts. Your routines matter. Your decisions matter. Your responses matter. Because someone is learning from how you live, whether you realize it or not. Now, let me take this even deeper. Legacy is not only about people, it is also about systems. If your impact depends entirely on your presence, then your influence ends when you do. But if you build systems, structures, principles, and processes that can function beyond you, then your impact continues. This is where many people stop short. They build success, but not sustainability. They create momentum, but not continuity. They achieve results, but not replication. And then everything they built disappears when they are no longer there to maintain it. If you want to be truly wealthy, you must think in terms of multiplication, not just addition. You must create something that can grow without you, something that can be carried forward, something that can be expanded by others. Because legacy is not about being remembered. It is about being reproduced. It is about creating something that continues to function, to grow, and to impact long after you are gone. And this requires vision, a vision that goes beyond your own lifetime, a vision that sees further than your current situation, a vision that is not limited by your immediate circumstances. Because if your vision is small, your legacy will be small. But if your vision is expansive, your impact will be expansive. And vision is not just about seeing what could be. It is about committing to build it, even when it takes time, even when it requires patience, even when you may not personally see the final result. This is where maturity comes in, because immature thinking says, if I don't see it, it doesn't matter. But mature thinking understands, if I start it, it can grow. Some of the greatest things in history were started by people who never saw their full impact. But they understood that their responsibility was not to finish everything, it was to begin what mattered. So the question is not, will I see the full result? The question is, am I building something that is worth continuing? Because legacy is not about immediate recognition, it is about lasting significance. Recognition is temporary. Significance is enduring. Recognition fades. Significance multiplies. And if you chase recognition, you may gain attention, but lose impact. But if you pursue significance, you will build something that continues to produce long after the applause has stopped. Now, understand this clearly. Legacy also requires alignment. You cannot build something lasting if your life is divided, if your public life and private life are inconsistent. What you build will eventually collapse, because anything built on inconsistency cannot sustain pressure, and legacy will be tested. It will be tested through time. It will be tested through transition. It will be tested through those who come after you. So if you want it to last, you must build it on truth, on integrity, on principles that do not change with circumstances. Because principles outlive personalities. And if your legacy is built only on your personality, it will fade when you are no longer present. But if it is built on principles, it will continue because those principles can be carried by others. Now let me bring this into a personal space. Your family is part of your legacy. The way you lead, the way you communicate, the way you handle challenges, the way you respond under pressure. All of these things are shaping what is being passed down, not just materially, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And many people are trying to give their families everything except what they actually need. They give resources, but not direction. They give comfort, but not structure. They give access, but not accountability. And then they wonder why what they built does not continue, because legacy requires preparation. You must prepare those who will carry what you build. You must equip them, train them, develop them. You must expose them to responsibility, because inheritance without preparation leads to loss. But inheritance with preparation leads to multiplication. And that is the goal, not just to pass something down, but to see it grow beyond you. So if you want to be wealthy in the truest sense, start thinking about your life from the perspective of continuation, not just what you can gain, but what you can establish. Not just what you can achieve, but what you can sustain. Not just what you can build, but what can endure. Because at the end of it all, your possessions will not speak for you. Your accounts will not represent you. Your titles will not define you. What will speak is what continues because you lived. What will represent you is what remains active because you invested. What will define you is the impact that refuses to disappear. And that is the kind of wealth that cannot be measured by numbers. That is the kind of wealth that cannot be lost through circumstances. That is the kind of wealth that continues to grow, to influence, to shape lives long after you are no longer present. And every single day, whether you realize it or not, you are building that kind of wealth.